set the rest of the Bear defense for you now. We told you the front four of Phillips, Evie, Pullman, and Obradovich. The linebackers are Buffon, 55, Butkus in the middle, 51, and Pride, 57, on the right.
People said it would never happen. Not to a small town boy like me. Playing high school football was the end of the dream for most. But not for me. My name is Dan Pride, and this is my story. As a young kid growing up, we was in this little town on the riverbanks of Ohio River. And, you know, I was born up on 10th Street. There were, you know, the downtown area, the Beechwood Park area, the hills that where US 52 runs through now was our playground. This is where we played at. We used to could go up on the hill and overlook the whole town and see the train area in the lower part of Ironton and look across the river over into Kentucky at the C&O Railroad. The Dayton Malibu was, you can see the smoke coming up from it. It was just, to me, a great town to be brought up in. I do it today, even now, when I drive down the streets. I always wave and speak to people. I bet you when I was a kid, I would pass a person 5 times and we'd always say hello. It was just a great environment for me to be brought up in. But 9th Street Playground used to be our hangout. And at that time, you know, I was a young man just playing, and we would play ball down there, football during football season, basketball during basketball season, and softball or baseball during those seasons. I can remember on the playground some lessons that I learned very early was we used to play against the older guys. And in order for you to play on the big court, you had to go down and play against the older guys. And I can remember they initiated us a lot. I know Coy Bacon and myself, we both were younger then, but we learned how to take an elbow in the chest and an elbow in the mouth, and you know, these guys, they played rough, and we had to learn how to play that way. My first memories of the football in Ironton High School football was when I was just a young kid. We used to come to the games, and we used to sit sort of like where a lot of the kids sit now in the stadium, and let our feet sort of hang over. At that time, they didn't come from out from under the stadium. We had a field house that we ran from the field house across. The band would line up, and we'd run through the band onto the field. And I can remember those guys running out there, and what a thrill it was for me. And I just couldn't wait as a young man to get to high school so I could probably be a part of that, I hoped. But it was just a great feeling, all the camaraderie. I mean, it's changed a lot now, and there's a lot of different things going on, but man, when that band started playing and that fight song and you ran through there, if you was ever gonna be ready to play anything or do anything, it would make you ready for it. What I remember most in high school, well, you almost never forget your number. My my number in football was number 82. I can remember my high school days and the coaches that I had. Charlie Couch was my coach then. It was just, an enjoyable time for me because I liked playing football. I had played football ever since I was probably old enough to play. I can remember when I was younger, on Thanksgiving Day, a lot of times it'd be snowing and we'd be out playing in the snow because we would watch the Cleveland Browns on television playing, and so we'd go out and sort of kind of emulate we were the Cleveland Browns playing out in the snow down on the playground. I can remember my first incident when I would think I was a junior, and I was playing out here on the field, and I went downfield to block a guy, and one of my teammates came I was the lower one, hitting him low. At that time you could block below the waist, so I was hitting him low downfield, and my teammate came on top of me and hit me and drove my head in the ground and chipped my tooth. You don't never forget something like that. Well, when I graduated from high school, I might have had some opportunities to go to play college ball, but academically I wasn't the strongest student. I did what I had to do in order to play. At that time you had to carry a 2.0, which was a C average, and I did what I had to do to get my C, but being young and not really knowing a whole lot about how important academics would be in the future. But at that time there was for a young man growing up in Ironton, a young black man growing up in Ironton, there was no hopes except probably when you graduated that you was going to be able to find a job, because at that time there were a lot of jobs at the different plants and things around, or you go into service. But my thoughts of going to college was like, no way, I never even dreamed I'd ever be able to go to college. Even though, like I said, my senior year I was approached, but they were willing to let me come there, but I would have to pay my way, and my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. So that was out of the question. And then, so I decided that with a couple of my friends that I was going to join the Air Force. So I went over to get my tests over in Ashland at the recruiting office, passed my tests, and was going to get sent to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. I went over to the recruiting office, and we had to sign a lot of papers and do a lot of stuff, but we hadn't got sworn in. And it's close to lunchtime, so the guy told us to go to have lunch and to come back. I think at 1 o'clock, 1:30 or something, he was going to swear us all in. Well, during that time, while I was at lunch, a coach from Jackson State College happened to be in this area, and he was looking for ball players to recruit to come to Jackson State College. Well, someone evidently had told him about me, so he went to my house, and he talked with my mom. My mom said, well, he's going in the Air Force, and he's went today to get sworn in to go to the Air Force. So he went over to the recruiting office and went there at the time while we were at lunch, getting ready. We were going to come back and get sworn in. But he talked to the recruiting officer. And I guess the recruiting officer told him, well, he wouldn't swear me in or whatever. But when I went back to get sworn in, he swore the other three guys that was with me into the Air Force and told me to go back home. There was a coach there that wanted to talk to me. Well, I went back home, and this guy was sitting on the porch with my mom. And I could remember after I got out of the car, my mom saying to me, oh, there's Danny there, And the guy, his name is Coach Merritt, Coach John Merritt. He got up off the porch and met me about halfway, and he said, my name is John Merritt. I'm the coach at Jackson State College. And I stuck my hand out to shake his hand, and he stopped and he looked at me and said, look at those hands. This guy was a very impressive guy. I mean, a tremendous recruiter. Anyway, to make a long story short, he signed me to come to Jackson State, so I didn't go to the Air Force. And, you know, I don't know how my life would have went if that hadn't happened. You know, when I think about things that's happened to me in my life, that's one of the things that I know that someone upstairs was watching over me and pointing me in the right direction. Because at that time I was just a young man, had never been south before in my life, and the things that I heard that went on in the South was definitely a deterioration for me not to want to go there. And then with me not feeling that I was a strong student or I was capable of doing college work, those things attributed to it, but something inside of me told me that this was the move that I needed to make. I remember going to Ashland, Kentucky and getting on the train going south. And I can remember when I got to Lexington or Louisville, one of the two of them. It was my first experience ever seeing a white and colored drinking fountains. The farther south I went, you know, I started experiencing even more because segregation, because at that time that area was segregated. I mean, we used to, when I got farther south, we had to have restaurants in the train station, and then they'd have a little room where blacks had to go in, and we had to order what we wanted through a little cubby hole. We couldn't go over and sit down in the dining area. But when I got there, that was sort of kind of impressive too, because the name of the street that the school was on was called Lynch Street. So it's kind of amusing to me now because, you know, my thinking then and the way I think now is obviously so much different, but that wasn't very impressive when I got there. I can remember my train arrived in Jackson in the morning, and there was a guy there from Jackson State there, you know, to pick me up and bring me out to the college. Well, when I got there, the team was on the field practicing, and there was, I'd say, anywhere from 150, maybe 150 guys out there, you know, on this field practicing. And so I got out of the van and I was standing there, and Coach came over and welcomed me in, you know, and then we were standing there, and I was more or less checking the players out to see, you know, where I thought I might fit in. And I looked around, and, you know, most of the guys there were anywhere from, I'd say, maybe 160 pounds to 225 or something like that. Well, at that time, I weighed, I think, about 210 or something. Oh my God, they're gonna make a lineman out of me. Because I know I'm gonna put on more weight and I'm gonna be bigger, you know, but they're gonna make a lineman out of me. I'm gonna play in, you know. And so after watching practice for a little while, all of a sudden I heard this roar and this noise over behind the gym. You couldn't see it had a fence like, and, you know, and shielded the field. And I heard this noise, and all of a sudden I seen about maybe 30 guys coming from behind this gym where they'd been over working on the sleds. And it was the linemen. My goodness, when I looked and saw those guys, Ben McGee, 6'5", 270. Frank Molden, 6'6", 280. I mean, these guys all had names like, and lots of Papa and Papa Hayes, and all of them had their hair shaved bald. And they had facial hair. And these guys looked at me like they were, you know, 30, 40 years old. You know, these were men. You know, I'm a boy. These guys are men. And I said, oh my goodness. I thought to myself, what have I got myself into? And, well, it went on, and you know, that was just a part of the experience. But when I got out on the field, my coaching that I had received in high school helped me tremendously, because I was doing things that some of those guys hadn't been taught to do. And that experience, being taught the way that I was in high school, the third game of the season, my freshman year, coach started me. And I started, for Jackson State College, the third game of the season, I was a starter, playing tight end and outside linebacker. And it was in 1962, we almost won the National Negro Championship. In 1961, we almost won the National Negro Championship. In 62, we did win it. We played in the Orange Blossom Classic against Florida A&M. At that time, Florida A&M was boasted as having the fastest backfield in the country. They had Bob Hayes and 2 or 3 other guys that ran the 100-yard dash in like 9 something. So they were considered the fastest team in the country. But we won the National Negro Championship that year, and it was just a great honor to play with a team like that.
For Tennessee will be doing the kickoff as they're lining up. It's going to be quite a day down here with better than 60-degree weather in Murfreesboro, Tennessee for the Rice Bowl. We're all ready for the kickoff.
Coach gave me my nickname. He called me Stacker. And one of the reasons for it was because we were playing Grambling. Almost everybody in the country, when they talk about black schools, had known about Grambling because there was so many good athletes that later on went on into the pros and things from Grambling. Well, my freshman year, they used to have the sweep that they ran. They would pull the 2 guards and then lead with the backs and bring the other back on the other side out with them. It was just a sweep, sort of like Green Bay used to run. Coach showed us video on it, and I watched a lot of video on it. But like I said, with the teaching I had in high school, I'd already experienced what you do when somebody blocks down. The end would block down, and then they double team the tackle, and then they pull and kick out on me. Well, that didn't happen because I had learned in high school, keep your shoulders square to the line of scrimmage and step at me. When he pulled down the line, he didn't see me, but I saw him, and I'd hit him, and it stacked the whole thing up, and it started, when I stopped the first guy, there was a big pile there, and that's how Coach started calling me Stacker. So all of us were sitting there waiting on calls, and so when they started the draft and they started calling, and I was selected in the 10th round by the San Diego Chargers. To make a long story short, they no longer needed me, so I was a 10th round draft choice. Had I been 1 or 2, it probably made a difference, but 10th round draft choice, they hadn't invested a lot in me, so they released me. And I had a friend that played with Chicago Bears. Well, he told me that, I think Chicago needs linebackers. Man, you need to go. So I went to Chicago, and they signed.
The rest of the Bear defense for you now. We told you the front 4 of Phillips, Evie, Pullman, and Obradovich. The linebackers are Buffon, 55, Butkus in the middle, 51, and Pride, 57 on the right.
61. Oh!
has had pretty good success everywhere tonight. I'm sure his percentage is very high. But he is having great success over the middle against the
I'll be daggone. Yeah, because remember we played Green Bay, yeah.
There was no gain. It is 2nd and 10. Dowler. He's at the 38-yard line and a Packer first down. Dan Pride made the tackle.
They had good linebackers there, They had Dick Buckus and Doug Buffon and quite a few others. But I thought I fit in pretty well, and I thought I had some skills maybe that some of those guys didn't have. And they put me on a taxi squad that year, which is the reserve squad. So I stayed with them that year. The next year, I got to the last 3 games of the season. They put me on taxi squad again the second year. And the last 3 games of the season, they put me on the regular squad. I got that year, and the next year, I went back the next year, and I made the starting lineup. I was the weak side linebacker next to Dick Buckles played in the middle, and Doug Buffone played the strong side, and I played the weak side. What I remember a lot about with the Bears is, like you said, is obviously Wrigley Field was something I'd seen on television before, but I even at times remember sort of kind of emulating me of being a baseball player and going back in that ivy and reaching up like I'm catching it. But we was throwing a football, but I reach up like I was catching a baseball or something. I can remember that Rosie Taylor used to tell me all the time, well, if you want to make this team, you got to, create some situations where you can get some attention. And so, I thought about it for a time, and I said, well, the linebackers would always kind of match up in when they were doing passing stuff with the backs. And so what I would do is that in order for me to get noticed a little bit, I would wait until in line, I would skip and wait till Gelt Sayers ran, and I would defend against him. And I would just jokingly say, I'm going to cover you like a blanket. And it got to the point where me and him had a little contest between each other, And, sometimes I covered him, sometimes he made me look pretty bad. But I think I got some attention that I might not have got, had I not challenged myself against him, And in the 3rd game of the season, played through the preseason, and 3rd game of the season, I got hurt and had surgery on my leg. And I thought I recovered from it well, but, it's just one of those things that year. The Bears didn't have a good season, so they were looking to make changes, so they released me. In a way, I wish that my NFL career would have been longer, but then again, when I started coaching and got into the coaching, that's when I realized what my niche in life was. That's what I wanted to do, because I really loved coaching. I mean, I love these kids and to help these kids and to do everything you can to motivate them to be the best that they can be if they really want it.
In 1987, Coach Pride led his team to back-to-back championships in California and was named the South Bay Coach of the Year by the LA Times.
And I hope that, when I talk to the kids, I hope my experience, knowing that I come up in this little small town and was fortunate enough to venture out, when there's opportunities that present themselves, if you just put your foot in the door, you never know what could happen.
When he retired and returned home to Ironton, Dan was honored as a hometown hero, inducted into the Ironton High School Athletic Hall of Fame, and continues to help countless kids through the community. Coach Dan Pride is the definition of an Ironton Fighting Tiger, and our community takes great pride in telling his story.